Okay, this special meeting of the Board of School Directors will please come to order. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Director Carr has informed that she would be running a little bit behind tonight. Director Garcia.
Present.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Present.
Director Herndon.
Present.
Director Leonard.
Present.
Director O'Halloran.
Here.
Director Simpson.
Present.
Vice President Taylor.
Present.
And President Peterson.
Present.
We have 8 present.
Will the secretary please read the call of the meeting?
At the request of President Robert E. Peterson, a special meeting of the Board of School Directors will be held on Thursday, October 14, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. The following items of business will be discussed. A report and communication from the superintendent. One item, which is action on a request to approve a timeline for development of an update on the MPS strategic plan. B, which is the report of the Committee on Strategic Planning and Budget, and there's one item. I'm sorry, there are 2 items. Action on Resolution 2122R-11 by Director Simpson regarding a comprehensive evaluation of the budget planning process. And item number 3, which is discussion of an action on amendments to the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, ESSER, the proposed budget. And C, discussion and action. It's a discussion and action item, which is item number 4, the report and action on the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, ESSER 3, proposed budget.
Okay. The chair will now ask the secretary to lead us in the recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. The chair invites any members of the audience who wish to participate to do so and asks that those who do not wish to participate please remain silent during the recitation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We acknowledge that Milwaukee lies on traditional Menominee, Potawatomi, and Ho-Chunk homeland along the southwest shores of Lake Michigan, part of North America's largest system of freshwater lakes. On this site, the Milwaukee, Menominee, and Connecticut rivers meet, and the people of Wisconsin's Menominee, Ojibwe, Ho-Chunk, Oneida, and Mohican sovereign nations remain present to this day. Before we begin tonight's meeting, we have a short announcement regarding interpretation services for the Spanish-speaking members of our audience.
Buenas tardes. Para las personas que desean escuchar la Junta Escolar en español, por favor de llamar al teléfono 312-626-6799 y marcar el código de Junta 608-130-5362. Una vez más, para escuchar la Junta Escolar en español, llamar al teléfono 312-626-6799 y marcar el número de código 608-130-5362. Gracias.
Gracias. Pursuant to Board Rule 1.06, this meeting is being conducted virtually. Board members may be participating from Central Services Building. In order to allow as much public participation as possible, this meeting is being broadcast on radio station via live stream on the MPS website and on the MPS YouTube stream, the links to which may be found on the MPS website on the broadcast page. As this is a special meeting of the board and as public hearing was previously given relative to ESSER 3 budget, the board will not be taking public comment tonight. Now let's begin. Madam Secretary, are there any reports or communications from the superintendent?
Yes, Mr. President. Item 1 is action on a request to approve a timeline for development of an updated MPS strategic plan. The administration recommends that the board determine how it wishes to proceed with this item.
Will the administration please present the item?
Yes. Good evening, President Peterson and members of the board. Keith Posley, Superintendent of Schools. The first item this evening on this evening's agenda is a follow-up on the board's action regarding the next MPS strategic plan. Before you is a timeline for consideration regarding the process associated with this implementation and as well as this important endeavor. Also, to ensure everyone has an opportunity and are represented and consistent with the board actions, the timelines includes an opportunity for community stakeholder input and suggested formation of an internal strategic plan team comprised of representatives from the board, the Office of Board Governance, the Office of Accountability and Efficiency, and the administration to guide this important work. In addition to the opportunities for the community stakeholder feedback, which will also include social media outreach and opportunities to accommodate widespread participation. It includes engaging a consultant to conduct a data review to determine baseline and inform development of the plan, and form work groups composed of individuals within MPS as well as those from the community. At this time, I would like to engage in dialogue with you regarding the feasibility of the timeline in terms of presenting a final proposal MPS strategic plan in June of 2022. I have with me this evening Dr. Melanie Stewart, and between the two of us, we can answer any questions that you may have. But before we turn over, I just would like to just bring your attention to one portion of the timeline, and that's November of 2021 and December 2022, where it talks about launching efforts for public feedback sessions, and just want to just make you aware that that's going to be a fast turnaround there, and it's going to be very hard for us to be able to turn this around by November 4th in order to make sure that we are able to get the message out to everyone and get the individuals that's needed. So I think we would like to look at a little adjustments around that whole piece around November and December of some of those kinds of things, or could those two bullets be combined? With that said, we're open for dialogue.
Thank you very much, administration. For listening audience, I want to let people know that Director Carr has joined our meeting tonight.
So
And
noted.
do board members wish to make any comments or ask questions? I see Director Gokul-Gandhi. Let's start with her.
Thank you, President Peterson. So Superintendent Posley, I think that there was some miscommunication about the timeline, because the resolution as it was intended, it was to take this next year as a planning period and have a strategic plan ready for 2023. So it was not my intention to have a plan at the end of this year or in April of 2022. I think that is way too soon. And I think you're absolutely right that that would not give us enough time to get internal stakeholder and external stakeholder engagement. And so, yes, we definitely should alter the timeline if it was understood that April 2022 was when we were expecting a final product. That was not the intended timeline.
Thank you. Administration, do you want to respond to that at all, or should I ask more people to speak first?
President Peterson and members of the board, Director Gokul-Gandhi, what a relief. I can say, yeah, because it was a compressed timeline and we were trying to get under the wire to get it there. This will give us the ample time to get things done and done in a decent manner where we can also engage community at large scale. Thank you.
Okay, Director Garcia.
Yes, so, and I agree. So thank you for that clarification, Director Gokul-Gandhi. And I think that it is going to be really critical that we take this year to really have a very thought out plan that's very intentional of the different stakeholders that we're going to be engaging. So my question is in the, I guess, the legwork that will help us get there. So I know that in the bullet point that's like November, December of 2021. So first of all, like, with the consultant that we want to hire to review the MPS data, so I just wanted a little bit clarification as to what those data points that they're going to be analyzing. Does that include kind of like a status of the previous strategic plan and what those goals were and kind of where we fare up with that? Just a little bit more information around what those data points in order for us to get that baseline. What does that look like?
Administration.
Chair Peterson, members of the board, there's a number of different things. We're going to look at the overall data over a number of years. That's one thing we're looking at, and that's also going to be comprised with research and assessment to do that, but also looking at the programs that we have, all of those different programs. We have a number of different initiatives that are going on, taking a look at that particular piece and how we're faring, results around that data, and looking at it from that data lens. Dr. Mel, anything else?
Good evening, Director Peterson, members of the committee, Melanie Stewart, Director of Research Assessment and Data. If we're looking at a full data review, as Dr. Posley said, we want to look at multiple years. We want to be able to look at student assessment, student behavior, all of those things that revolve around our children and our schools. We would want to look at our staff, potentially other topics based on your interest to expand this. There are many data points that are available, but I think we start with our core work of our children and looking at the performance there. So again, we are open to other areas of data, and then we can gather data accordingly to go into a review.
Other comments by board members?
So just quick follow-up.
Sure.
With
sure,
that, you mentioned the whatever data points the board is interested in, like where would we be able to get like a list of what is available, or just for us to have an understanding as to, you know, what is the universe of data that already is on the radar, and then for us to have that opportunity to like think of things that maybe we have not yet thought of that we want to go into for the next strategic plan, like to measure.
Administration.
Director Peterson, Director Garcia, members of the committee, Melanie Stewart, Director of Research Assessment and Data. One of the beginning points to look at is the public data that is available through the WISE-Public portal. And we can be certain that you are provided a link to give you an opportunity. We can also look at creating a general overview of data that is available. We are very data rich in the district and can provide a wide range of things. But I think a good starting point for your review is the public data that is available.
I'd like to pass thank you, Administration. I'd like to pass the gavel to Vice President Taylor and just make a few comments.
So noted.
The gavel has been passed, Director Peterson.
Thank you very much. I appreciate slowing down the process. We don't want to rush community input. We also want to have some data and framework when we ask for community input, or I don't think it will be as valuable. I would just suggest some other data points, and I agree with everything that's been added, but everything from the racial composition of our different staff groups, the availability in different schools of support staff and music, art, phy-ed teachers. I mean, just like a data. Okay, here's what we have now. Here's what we had in the past, and move forward. Certainly, certain things about how each different schools are engaged in different projects, and this comes to I don't know if we call it data, but it's a survey and summary of the various initiatives that Dr. Posley mentioned that we need to incorporate in some way, we can't ignore, into a strategic plan, whether that's the community schools process, the Montessori schools, certain equity issues or processes. I mean, we probably could name 10 different quasi little mini plans, and those should be connected to the larger plan, because we don't want to have a major plan and still have then 10 things over here, some of them going right with the plan and some of them going every which way. So I would hope that that would be included as well. I am finished.
Administration.
Director Peterson, members of the committee, thank you for those recommendations. Another area of data that I think will be valuable to us is our Council of Great City Schools key performance indicators. We have both academic that we report annually, as well as operations that we report annually. And that covers all of the areas that are within the district: human resources, building, finance, et cetera, that we collect annually. So we will also have those that we have benchmarks against other schools across the country.
Director Peterson, any follow-up or other questions?
No, I could take the gavel back if you wish.
So noted.
Okay, any other comments? Director Gokul Gandhi.
Am I able to move to approve? This would be a motion, correct?
Yes, and you might, do you want to change some dates, or do you want to, how do you want to handle that?
Yeah, so I move to approve the strategic plan with the administration's recommendations, stating that taking 20 from October 2021 until June 2022 as a planning year. Would that be the correct date?
I'm not sure.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, yes, Dr. Mann.
Members of the board, Director Gokul Gandhi, would it be easier to direct the administration to bring back the administration, Office of Board Governance and OAE, to bring back a revised proposed timeline for the MPS strategic plan development?
Yeah, that would be better.
Okay. Would you like to make that motion, or just do we need a motion, Dr. Mann, for that?
I move to approve the administration bringing back a revised timeline for the strategic plan.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Members of the board, that would also give an opportunity for OAE and OBG to get together with the administration and make sure that all of the steps are included in the timeline. So thank you so much for that.
Great. Is there any discussion on that motion to approve this, but to recommend approving it at the same time asking the administration to bring back a plan that is more spread out, put it that way? Okay, seeing no further discussion, Madam Secretary, could you call the roll?
On Director Gokul Gandhi's motion to direct the administration to bring back to the board a revised proposed timeline for the MPS strategic plan development. Director Carr.
Aye.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye. Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Vice President Taylor.
Aye.
And President Peterson.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 2, action on the award of professional services contracts, the contract with U.S. Bank for rewards cards program. The recommendation is that the board authorize the professional service contract as set forth in the attachment to this item.
Will the administration please present the item?
President Peterson and members of the board, the contract before you is necessary to carry out the board's action regarding incentives for students relative to the vaccination. We are happy to respond to any questions that you may have in regards to this item.
Thank you. Board members, do you wish to make any comments or ask questions? Director O'Halloran.
I move we approve administration's recommendation.
I think we need a second on that, don't we, for since this is a full board meeting?
I'll second that.
Okay, Director
So
Simpson.
noted.
There's been a motion to approve this. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will the secretary please call the roll?
On Director, oh, we have Director O'Halloran's hand
I'm
up
sorry.
before.
Go ahead. I'm sorry,
call.
Director O'Halloran.
No, it would be interested after I saw the notification on the banner on the website, and I think I got it. I saw it on Twitter that students can start, or families can start entering information for data gathering related to this. At some point, would we see a report out on how much, like how many families took us up on this offer? Is that baked into this process already?
Administration.
President Peterson and members of the board, yes, we will be bringing that back as soon as we have that data available.
Okay.
And if we could, once we got it available and start the process, we could bring it back on a monthly sequence, but we would like to wait and try to get them all at one time and then just bring back and let you know the exact number.
Okay. Seeing no other comment, please call the roll, Madam Secretary.
On Director O'Halloran's motion to approve the administration's recommendation, seconded by Director Simpson for the professional services contract with U.S. Bank for the reward card program. Director Carr.
Aye.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi. Director Gokul Gandhi. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Vice President Taylor.
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
And President Peterson.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item would be item number the next item would be our reports of the Committee on Strategic Planning and Budget. And the first from that report is action on Resolution 2122R-11 by Director Simpson regarding a comprehensive evaluation of the budget process. Your committee recommends approval of the resolution with the Office of Board Governance to be included in the work. And if no members wish to set this item aside, it will be forwarded for approval.
When you say set this aside, but it's before for approval, that would be approval at our next full board meeting?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, you will be approving this tonight.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Any discussion on this item? Director Simpson, do you want to restate what your thinking is on this?
Sure. So this resolution is really just meant to take a look at our budgeting process, look for ways that we can improve it, make it easier for us and the public to understand and work through that budgeting process. I think it's always good to look at things and see where we can improve. So that was the motivation behind it. And if board members are willing, I'd like to make a motion to pass the resolution as is attached with the modification of the date being December, bringing that this will be brought back to us in December rather than November of 2021.
Okay, I forgot to ask the administration if they have any comment on this resolution. Excuse me, administration, could you comment?
President Peterson and members of the board, this item was discussed on October 5th SPP meeting, and recommendations and the administration stands behind this recommendation. And thank you.
Okay. Do we have a second for the, okay, Director Herndon, he seconded it. Any further?
Second.
Okay, sorry. Any further discussion by the board? Madam Secretary, could you please take the roll?
On Director Simpson's motion to approve, seconded by Director Herndon. And 1 second, please. And that is to approve Resolution 2122R-11 by Director Simpson regarding a comprehensive evaluation of the budget planning process.
Right.
On the motion,
as amended by the administration, there was one time.
as amended by the administration. On the motion as read into the record, Director Carr?
Aye.
Director Garcia?
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi?
Aye.
Director Herndon?
Aye.
Director Leonard?
Aye.
Director O'Halloran?
Aye.
Director Simpson?
Aye.
Vice President Taylor?
Aye.
And President Peterson?
Aye.
That's 9 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, what is the next item on this report?
The next item on this report is discussion of and action on amendments to the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, ESSER 3 proposed budget.
Okay, the recommendations on each of the amendments presented at the SPB meeting are attached, and no amendments have been set aside. And so do board members wish to set aside any amendments? Seeing no hands raised, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the balance of the items from the report that have not been set aside, which is everything. Director O'Halloran.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second it.
Okay, and I think Director Gokul Gandhi's snuck in there first. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director O'Halloran's motion to approve the balance of the items, which is all of the amendments on and the report of the Committee on Strategic Planning and Budget, seconded by Director Gokul Gandhi. Director Carr?
Aye.
Director Garcia?
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi?
Aye.
Director Herndon?
Aye.
Director Leonard?
Aye.
Director O'Halloran?
Aye.
Director Simpson?
Aye.
Vice President Taylor?
Aye.
And President Peterson?
Aye.
That's 9 ayes. The motion passes.
Next item, please.
The next item is item number 5. And item number 5 is a report and action on the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, ESSER 3, the proposed budget. The recommendation is that the board adopt the 21-22 Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief updated proposed budget, the ESSER 3, budget detail with the approved amendments and with the adjustments for eligible secretaries' hazard pay being incorporated.
Does administration have any additional information to present on this topic?
Yes, President Peterson and members of the board. First of all, I would like to thank the many individuals, including staff, the finance staff, the leads, and many individuals in various departments and schools, community stakeholders, and the board for the time, thoughts, and ideas invested in forming the ESSER 3 budget detail to best support our students, families, schools, and the overall community. This is a huge opportunity for our district and our community, and the input of many has resulted into a budget that I am confident that will result into positive outcomes for our young people. We are happy to respond to any questions that you may have at this time. Thank you.
Do board members wish to make any comments or to ask questions? I see Director O'Halloran.
Thank you, President Peterson. We did receive one piece of testimony from someone who was asking about the process of accessing and just how that figures into this budget. So I was just curious if we were to change what's before us to say this year we're not going to do the normal accessing process, can anybody give me an idea of what the financial implications would be if we tried to just keep things as normal as possible? Because for some of the cases, it sounds like there's some schools that are losing quite a few, and it might result in larger class sizes, which, given that we're trying to social distance, might be a problem. So I certainly don't want to upend this document that was so carefully constructed, but I was curious about what the entirety of accessing looks like.
Okay, administration.
President Peterson and members of the board, one of the things that I will say that we have done a number of different things around budget carousels with schools, as well as office carousels here at the district. And one of the things that we have looked at is each individual school, case by case, with the regional support as well as the principals, looked at their contingency plan and worked through as best we possibly can. A number of the positions that were cut, there was 120.8 FTEs that was cut, and large majority of those individuals that were cut was vacant positions where no one was in those positions. I have done everything that we possibly could as administration to work through to make sure that we are all on the same page. There are some situations where we have schools that are down 100 and 200 students down and have oversaturation of teachers. And then there are schools that are 100 and 200 students over with no teacher. So we have to make sure that we meet that particular need as well. But we have done everything we possibly can. There's 2 cases that I'm currently working on. Got one this evening and got one this morning. 2 cases that we're trying to get to the bottom of, but we will maneuver and make things work the way we need to, and it shouldn't interfere with the budget because there's overage in the budget at each school.
Follow-up, Director O'Halloran.
I still don't really understand why we wouldn't just say this year, keep everybody whole and just take it out of ARPA funds, or I mean, ESSER funds, sorry. I understand that where we would have to cut anybody, if you can do it out of a vacancy, that's one thing. But if you're moving a teacher out of a building, I was trying to understand how many teachers are actually leaving buildings at this point and what the dollar amount would be, like what we would have to find in the ESSER funds, because I think that is one of the most critical areas of support we can provide students after a very traumatic, couple of years. And so that didn't really answer my question about what the financial implications would be. How many people are actually then leaving? If we're doing it just through vacancies, that's one thing. But if you're actually walking somebody out of a building, I think that's a very different case. And I think of any year, we can make the case to just keep everybody whole, use the ESSER funds, and then return to your practices when we're talking about the annual budget. This seems like, I don't know.
Well, thank you. Let me have the administration respond, and administration, please also talk about the special education teachers and paras.
President Peterson and members of the board, out of that 120.8 FTEs, there's 40 individuals that there will be a difference of 40 individuals that will be moved. There are situations where we have a teacher with 1 student or a teacher with 2 students. And then we have schools in other places with a whole classroom full of students and no teacher. So from an equity lens, we have to look at moving individuals where we have vacancies, because we want to make sure that that excess of 40 teachers can cover some of the vacancies that we constantly have within the district. But if we allow them to stay there with one child or whatever in a classroom, that means where we got schools that went up 200 students, they need additional staff. They won't have that additional staff. So as far as the money staying there, that's not an issue. The money is not an issue. It's just the staff that we need in order to cover classrooms throughout the district.
And could you, what, in terms of special ed, what number of those teachers are special, work with special ed students? Administration.
President Peterson and members of the board, Mr. Harris is checking that number as we speak, and I'm sure he will be giving it to us very shortly. Harris. Yeah.
President Peterson, members of the committee, Michael Harris, Senior Director of Talent Management. So right now we are still receiving documentation from our principals to make sure that we have all of our I's and T's crossed for our movements. But at this time, we are looking around 40 teachers in that job classification that would be either transferred to another location within their licensure area. Within that, I would say around 13 teachers are in special education, and then the others are in regular education.
Thank you.
And of course, that could vary. We're looking at having finalized numbers by Tuesday of next week.
Thank you. I see Director Herndon and Director Simpson in the queue. Go ahead, Director Herndon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for clarification, you clarified it more or less after I raised my hand, is the fact that at the beginning of this conversation, and it sounded almost like we were laying off people, and I don't want the public to be misguided in that respect. It's not layoffs that we're speaking of. It's moving teachers to where they're needed the most is what I'm getting out of this conversation, of which I support.
Thank you, Director Herndon. Administration, any response?
President Peterson and members of the board, no, by no means is anyone being laid off. We have roughly 170 vacancies at this time in this district, and we have to have coverage. And if we leave those 40 staff in one place, so we're still working at 170. Now we could be looking at 130.
Director Simpson, then Director Carr.
Oops. Sorry, I see. Sorry. Yeah, so one of my questions was how many of those 40 were special education teachers, and I completely understand if there's one student sitting there with one teacher, there is some, there's justification for that. And I know I've said all along, I really, this year it just seems like a good year to keep schools intact, especially with vaccines rolling out for some of our age groups, that more families may choose to return to in-person learning, that we may see, January, February, we may see families coming back, and then, schools may all of a sudden be stretched a little bit thin, or classes may get a little more full. And, I just hate to put us in a position where next fall, then we are going to be in a position of having to try to fill, find teachers to fill these classrooms that we just walked someone out of. So I just, would give pause before we consider having that number of teachers leave the regular ed classroom.
Administration.
And members of the board, I totally agree with having teachers and staff to be made whole. However, the reality is that we're talking about students that may come next year. We have students that are present right now that need teachers in the front of them. And that's the urgency that we have as far as moving forward. We have done everything we possibly can to give teachers to various schools. We have very low class sizes in some places, And we have done everything that we could possibly do to stand up schools to make sure that they are successful. But also when I got an influx of a large number of students in one location and no teachers to go there, that creates a problem. There's 78 teachers from here at central office is covering vacancies every single day, as well as substitute teachers that we have covering classrooms on a daily basis. And so this would give us some support in some of those schools where they have vacancies. And I just want to make sure that we are able to support all our students.
Thank you. Any follow-up, Director Simpson?
No, just thank you for that perspective. I appreciate it.
Director Carr.
Thank you, President Peterson, Dr. Posley, administration. I just wanted to make a few remarks. I don't have any questions, but I wanted to make some remarks about the budget. So I will say that there are components of the ESSER budget that I absolutely don't agree with, which initially led to my thoughts about possibly abstaining or voting against the budget. However, I do acknowledge that there are some great ideas and amendments that were included in the proposed budget. And so my vote will be in support of the budget as a whole and not just parts. My frustration is, there are about 23,000 constituents in District 4, and all the zip codes that were represented in the survey data that was previously presented, there was absolutely no input provided from those in the 53206 zip code. And I'm hopeful and certain that things have probably changed now, but what was presented, there was absolutely no representation, which again leads me to believe that we're using some of the same strategies while failing to recognize the inequities and the digital divides that are great, especially in District 4. And I will also say, as a representative of District 4, the data in this budget does not reflect the remarks, the demands of my constituency, and that's not okay. When I think about the short-term funding of ESSER budget, ESSER 3, when I think about the short-term funding opportunities that we have here and the impact that it could have on long-term district-wide changes and reform, I am reminded of what could be. I think about global warming and the drastic climate changes, and I am reminded of the summer weather, reminded of the past couple months where there were significant complaints and whatnot relative to the excessive heat and the uncomfortable conditions of our building. There was an amendment to address the air conditioning. And I understand that $140 million is a lot to propose, but I also saw this as an opportunity to invest the short-term funding in long-term benefits that will ultimately help with recruitment, retention of our students and our teachers. And our inability to provide affordable alternatives demonstrates our unwillingness to act on the demands of our educators and our families. And so I just think there's a lot of missed opportunities. There's a lot of great ideas, but a lot of missed opportunities with this budget. And I just want to, speak publicly and go on the record and saying that while there are great things, there are also opportunities that we're missing by allocating the funds in the way that we are. But I also want to say too that I know this is not easy work. This is very difficult. And I know this, like, I couldn't put this budget together alone, and I'm not confident in my ability to do it with our current board because of our different backgrounds and lack of experience in school financing and whatnot. So I do want to give a kudos to the administration, superintendent, and all of those that have worked on it. And I just want to encourage everyone to continue or to start thinking innovatively about how we can really change our current educational paradigms during this time, because norms no longer exist. And the norms that did were the same things or the same reasons why there are so many disparities and inequities. So I just want to go on record in saying that I apologize. I was long. I could have made it short, but I'm going to continue to push for us to be our greatest and do better.
Thank you very much. Are there other people who wish to make comments or ask questions?
You do have Director Leonard in the queue.
Thank you. Director Leonard.
A couple of questions really for regarding staffing, just to get a ballpark idea of where we're at. Is there anybody out there that we are in the process of hiring to bring that 130 teachers down? And what is the likelihood, and this is just a historical question, what is the likelihood of hiring new staff members after like November, just out of curiosity? Thank you.
Administration.
President Peterson, Director Leonard, members of the committee, Michael Harris, Senior Director of Talent Management. So in the Office of Human Resources, we continue to outreach into the community to post positions, interact with community, and engage. We are currently scheduled to host an in-person recruitment fair at North Division on Saturday, November 6th from 10 till 2. And that is, we're working collaboratively with our communications department to make sure that that information is on all platforms for the district, as well as flyers and local community shops. So we continue to hire year round. We are constantly engaging with candidates out in the community to bring them into the organization. And we are confident that we're going to be able to bring additional staff into the district. I think that some of the additional funding that is on the table tonight will assist us in this work to bring folks from neighboring districts, as well as in retaining our current staff that is working and doing the work that we're asking them to do every day in our schools.
President Peterson and members of the board, one of the things that we do is that the recruitment never stops. Every single festival, every single event that have taken place this year, we've had someone there looking for individual candidates. As early as this past weekend at a festival, we had individuals there. Everywhere there is an opportunity, we're there. We are working with universities, talking with people at universities, still with that recruitment piece as much as we possibly can, with deans at the colleges to try to get individuals into this career and this profession. All of us are looking and asking individuals to consider teaching.
Follow-up, Director Leonard.
Yeah, this is more of a just a direct question. How many historically would you say we pick up during the course of the year? Just a ballpark figure, just to give me an idea of sort of what we're looking at.
Administration.
President Peterson, Director Leonard, members of the committee, Michael Harris, Senior Director of Talent Management. So one of the things that we've implemented this year is we're really trying to monitor, we are monitoring the effectiveness of our recruitment events that we attend. And so we are continually following up with candidates. I would say during this time period, and I don't have a concrete number for you, but I would easily say that during the summer months when we were hosting those virtual and then we converted to in-person, we were able to bring in over 100 new staff members to join our team in Milwaukee Public Schools. And just with, and again, as Superintendent Posley has mentioned, we were visiting the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, talking to those students who are going to be graduating in December to make sure that they know that MPS is their first choice to join the team. And so we continue. There's a lot of choice out there for folks. And so we're trying to make sure that they know what we can provide and offer and get them into our doors and into our classrooms.
President Peterson, members of the board, there's one other thing I want to add is that we make sure anytime we get a student teacher that do their student teaching in the Milwaukee Public Schools, we make sure that we work with the school leader to get them a visit, to get them a contract signed, to stay with us. So that is also another avenue of where we get a number of our staff as well. Adrian?
Yes, I just wanted to add, historically, like around this time, there's a little bit of a lull after Third Friday, but in the winter we pick up because we do have graduates, in December and January. So we do pick up a little bit hiring there, and then we start preparing to hire for the next school year, and we move forward from there.
Director Leonard, is there any other thing?
Pretty close. So over 100 in the summer, that's great. I just need to know over the course of, this is for me in a way, because I know I'm going to be asked this question by a number of schools. What's the odds of us getting a teacher? And I can sort of give them the odds if I have an idea of what kind of numbers we pick up during the course of the year. So is it 20, 40, 60, something like that? Just a ballpark figure. I know your efforts you're doing just fine that way. I just need to have a more clear number. I'm a numbers person.
Administration, any word on that?
President Peterson, members of the committee or board, Director Leonard, Adrian Marileni, Chief of Human Resources, I would say definitely maybe around the 50 to 75 mark, roughly. In general, I would say every year we hire upwards of 400, a year. Obviously the summer and spring are like our biggest months, like for hiring, but as you know, it's definitely harder in the middle of the school year to hire teachers because people are placed, people aren't breaking contracts in the middle of the year to go somewhere. So it definitely slows down, but as Mr. Harris was alluding to, we don't stop. And we continue to recruit, and we'll try our best, and we will do our best moving forward to continue to hire throughout the school year, every day, every month of the year.
President Peterson and members of the board, this budget gives us an opportunity because there is dollars set aside in this budget. So if individuals break contracts with other districts, that we could pay to have that happen. And so we hope to see more individuals that are willing to do just that. But also just a reminder that when Adria talked about, we hire upward around 400 teachers every single year. We are always often running, having 200 vacancies available. So I'm, like right now with 170, there has been improvement, but we want to close that gap to make sure that we have all of our classrooms covered and also have that substitute pool that is waiting to get into the district like it was when I came into the district some years ago.
Thank you. Director Simpson.
Thank you. I was just wondering if we have any data around those teachers who are accessed. Is there a percentage of them who then leave the district? I think sometimes it's those young student teachers who jump in, get hired, and of course, because they're lowest on the totem pole, they're sometimes the first to get access. Do we have any information around, do some of them just choose to leave the district at that point?
Administration.
President Peterson, Director Simpson, Michael Harris, Chief Senior Director of Talent Management. During the accessing process, we make sure that our teachers that are being accessed have choices. We provide them with the positions that are available throughout the district, which we know provides multiple opportunities for them to really explore to make sure it's a really good fit for them. So we're definitely trying to make sure that we provide the choice and that they are engaged in the process while we go through that process to make sure that they feel comfortable with the move as well. Principals also have an opportunity to reach out to those individuals, to have conversations, to ensure that they're a good fit for their schools as well. So I think the choice is there on both sides to make it a seamless transition.
Follow-up, Director Simpson?
No, thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions for the administration? Director Garcia.
Yes, I just had a question in regards to now that we have a idea of how we're investing ESSER 3. Is it possible to have, something that kind of a aggregate of how money was spent in the priority areas through ESSER 1, ESSER 2, ESSER 3, that just like a one-pager that kind of gives us a summary view?
Superintendent, administration, please respond.
President Peterson, members of the board, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. I think that would be important to update the board, and we plan on doing that as we had with ESSER 1, the CARES Act, which was not really planned around these same priority areas, but was more kind of a reaction to the beginning of the pandemic. And we will make sure we add ESSER 2 and then also ESSER 3 updates to that.
Thank you. Any follow-up, Director Garcia?
No, thank you.
Director Taylor.
Thank you, President Peterson. I have a question and then a comment. Some of it was in line of what Director Garcia talked about. And when we get that information out, because we're doing the breakdown of those ESSER funds, if we can think of breaking it down so that the individuals in the communities and our parents are able to clearly understand it. I know during some of our town halls, it was great information that was given, but a lot of the language we use is for people who work in education. And so people that do not work in education, like our parents or some community members, trying to understand what we're saying in the breakdown of those funds would be great. And then also I was at a community meeting and I thank the superintendent and some other people for coming. And it was stated that a lot of the ESSER funds are going to fill budget gaps within government instead of kind of helping, to enhance and do things that we waited a while to do or would like to do. And I know it's challenging with budget, but, even thinking about in the future, we only have these funds for a limited time or to be used for certain things, trying to think of more strategic ways that we can have funding or monies in ways to do programming. And so I just want to know with administration, are we kind of thinking ahead of the road, knowing that we do have these funds to fill the gaps now, but knowing after the funding is gone, we'll kind of be more in a deficit, and how are we looking at things to be more proactive instead of reactive?
Administration.
President Peterson, members of the board, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. The planning for the ESSER 2 and 3, and especially with the community engagement that came about, we have many of the activities are new initiatives in the district or enhancing things that are already going on, but they weren't meant to fill gaps. I guess the only area that you may think of that way is possibly the facilities area. And this is a great opportunity for us to be able to do those things with facilities. And I truly believe that with the facilities area, it will have a long-term impact. And these other activities that we are planning, we also want them to have long-term impacts, especially on our students, as we help them with their mental health, their social, emotional health, and their academics.
Thank you. Director Taylor, could you take the gavel to allow me to speak, please?
Absolutely. The gavel has been passed. Director Peterson, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. There's two items which I'd be interested in getting a little more information about in terms of the administration plans. One item is the monies that were set aside in both ESSER 3 and ESSER 2 for additions or modifications of buildings. Does the administration have a timeline for when those might be processed to be, for that particular item? And then I have another question.
Administration.
Vice President Taylor, members of the board. roughly between ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, there's roughly $123 million set aside for that. Our goal is to get something out, once this is approved, to get something out to the school community to put in an offer if they have a plan that they have been looking at, or school community wants to, looking at improvement of their schools, or whatever the situation may be, the fiscal plan of their school, to get that to us. And we are going to take a look at all of them, and then we're planning on bringing that back to the board. Our goal is to try to get back in November on what that looks like, but no later than December. So it's just the idea. We don't know how many we're going to get in. And if there's a huge process, we get 132 schools, we're going to have to do some work around that and that particular piece, and looking at various proposals. But very simple, easy piece for schools to just let us know their interest and also what their plans are as far as going forward.
Thank you. And I assume that will include.
Director Peterson. I know you're so used to it, Director Peterson. Any questions or comments?
Yes. I assume you'll have some criteria for that in terms of building additions or whatever, where it's really needed, et cetera, et cetera. The other part that I really appreciate that actually came through an amendment, I think, from Director Garcia, was the $100,000 that each school would receive, and there'd be a menu of items that schools, communities could choose from. Do you have any idea? I don't mean to be pushing too hard, but do you have any idea when that might be available for schools to consider?
Administration.
President Peterson, members of the board, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. Right now, we are creating what that menu would be. And so we're hoping that we would have that ready. We have to make sure that we have the menu ready, and how do they choose from that menu and state how much that would cost. Like, are we going to put parameters on the cost, or will they be telling us, what they want to spend on each of those? So there's a little thought that needs to go into it yet, but we have each of the team leads is working on that currently. And I believe that menu was to come back to the board for you to see. So.
Okay.
Director Peterson.
That sounds good. Thank you very much. We certainly want to do it in a way that makes sure that we are holding ourselves accountable for every dollar we spend of the federal funds. Thank you.
Thank you. The gavel has been passed back.
Okay.
So noted.
Any other comments? I see Director O'Halloran. Please.
Yes, I was just going to move that we adopt administration's recommendation with the approved amendments from the Strategic Planning and Budget Committee and adjustments for eligible secretary hazard pay.
Thank you. Is there a second, Director Herndon?
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. There is still opportunity for more conversation if anyone on the board wishes. Director Herndon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One thought that crossed my mind was that in terms of facilities and air conditioning versus what we just spoke of, the $100,000 to each school, I'm wondering, could there be sometimes a conflict in terms of what we meaning administration and the engineering staff or what have you, have decided for a building versus what the staff of the building, the administrators in the building are aware of, so that there might be a meeting of the same repairs, for example, air conditioning, and the principal says, I want air conditioning. Well, facilities already has it budgeted. So shouldn't they need some kind of information, or you don't need to worry about this particular thing because we've already got it included in the facilities budget, therefore use your 100,000 someplace else?
Could we clarify administration first, the 100,000, and then the money for modifications and
Right.
additions, and then also
Peter,
go ahead,
yes.
then respond to Dr. Herndon's question.
President Peterson and members of the board, just the $100,000, that menu of services will not include air conditioning,
Okay.
right? So that is not going to be there. That 123,000 that I talked about, that's a part of ESSER 2 as well as a part of ESSER 3. Some of those dollars, because it's modifications and things of that nature, some of those dollars very well could be used for air conditioning. That could be one of the proposals that someone may request. So, but that could be under there because, and if there is a building that there's some modifications made to that currently already have air, we will have to make the air quality there as well. Sean,
Okay.
with the service.
President Peterson, Director Herndon, members of the board, Sean Kane, Interim Director for Facilities and Maintenance Services. The air conditioning piece is part of with the air quality, which we're going to be doing as part of ESSER 2 is the testing and balancing that we're working with the IPD contractors. And as Dr. Posley indicated, that the space currently has air conditioning, we're going to take a look at it to make sure everything's fine-tuned and where it needs to be. The item for the amendment for 19, I believe, for the allocation, and just for the menu that Ms. Kreitzman was talking about, we're looking at which each area that's indicated on that it was listed out, and one of those was indicated had to do with furniture. So we'll definitely be working with the schools to kind of take a look at their menu. And again, from the furniture piece, I see a lot throughout the district that cafeteria tables are high need to be replaced just from a safety standpoint, and just how old and unstable they are. That also allows from furniture, if they want to look to do classroom furniture, or also some of those pieces that might be in the corridor for congregation or assembly spaces that are looking to do that. The other piece that was talked about for the addition or remodeling, and also as Dr. Posley indicated, if someone wanted to utilize those funds to upgrade a space to become a STEM lab, if they also possibly wanted to look at introducing air conditioning as well, as long as the budget supports that. As once we kind of identify how those dollars get allocated per site, we're also going to be working with the schools to find out what their needs are. But also, as Director Herndon mentioned, that if they want air conditioning in something, if it doesn't make sense, that's already being included as part of capital or part of that testing and balancing piece. Yes, we would make the suggestion to the school that do not worry about this. You may want to focus on some other need or something you look that helps support your education program.
Thank you. Any
Thank you
follow-up?
very much. That
Okay.
takes care of it.
Thank you. Any other comment? We have a motion on the floor that's been seconded. Director Carr, you were muted there.
I'm sorry, second,
I think we have a second.
we already have one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, Madam Secretary, could you repeat the motion and the makers and the seconders and call the roll?
On Director O'Halloran's motion, seconded by Director Herndon, to adopt the 21-22 elementary and secondary school emergency relief updated proposed budget detail, the ESSER 3 budget, with the approved amendments and with the adjustments for eligible secretary hazard pay incorporated. On the motion as read into the record, Director Carr.
Aye.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Vice President Taylor.
Aye.
And President Peterson.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item of business, please.
Mr. Chair, that was the last item on this meeting's agenda.
Wow. I hope everybody has a enjoyable evening.
Um,
Yes, I will adjourn the meeting. I'm sorry. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Good night, all.
Good
Good
night.
night.